And welcome back to our next tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to talk about animations. And to be specific, triggering and transitions. So let's go to Unity, and I basically recreated everything that you see in the game, in the test game here in Unity, with all the transitions in between everything. So a transition basically means, given a trigger, it will go from one animation to the next. So you can see here we can go from idle right to walk left, down, up, walk left, down, right, and up. So yeah, we can go to all of these, and it's like that for all the animations. While walk down or walk right can only go back to the idle animation. So this is basically kind of what it's going to look like. You can see that it's quite a lot of transitions. So let's get to the code. So I decided to stop programming as much. I know it's kind of like a programming tutorial, but the thing is, some of these get so long to program that you'd be like watching a tutorial for 3 hours just to get done with animations. So I figured I post the code anyways, so I'm going to talk about it, and then then you guys can go and actually look at the code, use it, etc., etc. So we're going to look at some of the code. So we're going to transitions and triggers. Now the trigger is really easy. It's just a class that holds whatever value you want. So in this case, it can do many things, but let's say a bool trigger or an int trigger or a float trigger basically holds whatever value, and then it has like here we can see we have condition met. So let's say if we have a bool trigger, let's see if I can find a bool trigger. You have, when you create it, you set the trigger and its value. So let's say if you wanted to flip on true, so you would say condition met, it will see if whatever value it currently has, if it's set to true, and then it will return true or false. And likewise for floats and integers, it would be like if the value is higher or lower or whatever you set it at. Here you can see whatever condition type it is, equals, not equals, greater than or less than, etc. Of course that doesn't apply for bools. So it's relatively simple. Now let's go to the CPP file for triggers. Yeah, some triggers you want to hit on the timer maybe. So you want to play an animation for, I don't know, 400 milliseconds. So you play the animation for 400 milliseconds, and then it can go to the next one. So here your condition met for a normal trigger. Here's a bool trigger. Basically checks if it's whatever value it is. Here's for the integer. It checks it for all of these. Float, it only checks it for greater than or smaller than, because a float is really hard. You can have two floats that are almost the same and still not be the same. So now we've done triggers. Let's go to transitions. Transitions are basically the lines we see in Unity from one point to the other. A transition can have multiple trigger conditions, so you could condition it to trigger on, let's say, a bool value for move right, or if speed is bigger than 10, it still stays into the move right category, something like that. And then when it gets slower, you can have it that if it's lower than speed X, then it will trigger to go to a different animation. So we can set whichever animation it has to point to. We can get whichever animations, just the size if you want to know. Add the trigger, remove the trigger, and see if the condition is met. And that's basically it. It's relatively simple, but we're going to go through the CPP file anyways. So find condition. So if you're looking for a condition, you can see, you can get its index, I guess. Set next animation. Basically, it checks if it's null, it throws an exception. Get next animation. It's also pretty explanatory. Adds a trigger, also move trigger. Condition met. Basically, we go through all the triggers and see if the condition is hit. If it's not, we do nothing. If it is, we return true. And that's it. Yeah, if you did everything with new and delete, you might want to delete the triggers and stuff the correct way. So depending how you set it up. But for this, for the way I'm doing it now, I think this is okay. So yeah, that's about it. So this basically is our character can move right and left, up, down. It works really well. It was modeled off of Unity. But if we go to our player, we can look at how we set it up. So this is just setting up the animation frames. It's very easy. We'll talk about it in the next tutorial. But here's our triggers. So here we have our 4 Boolean triggers. And then this is our transitions, those lines in between the animations. And here we set it up and on what state we want to trigger it at. So we have here trigger condition. Is a bool value. So walk up trigger, if it's true, then we hit the trigger. And we do that for every line. So depending on what you do, this can get quite long. Here's a little simple function I created to make it a little bit easier so we don't have to do all of this. Yeah. So tune in the next tutorial. We're going to talk about our animation and our animator.